Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. I'm very happy to welcome you here in this law after lunch with our colleague, Dr. Irina Moutaye from the Russian Federation. Irina used to work for many years for big Russian energy companies like Rosneft and Gazprom. And at the same time, she was very closely involved to academic life in Russia. She was a scientific assistant, I would say, or a research assistant in Russian, if we translate it correctly, at the Institute for Comparative Law and Legislation under the government of the Russian Federation, like a think tank which prepared a lot of draft laws and was very active in this position. Since, I would say, 2-3 years, 6 years, I don't know, 3 years. Since the last 3 years, Irina has moved, because of personal reasons, to Germany, to Berlin. She's living in Germany now, but she's staying in academic contact with different institutions and has close contacts to the Walter Schicking Institute in Kiel with Professor Martin-Luther-Universität there. And I have asked Irina to give us some insights from her practical career, but also from academical point of view on the recent developments with regard to the Arctic region, which I think will be very important for the next decades, impacting the policy of the whole region. So I'm very glad and happy to have you here, Irina. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. In my presentation today, I will talk about the revision of the law of the sea in Russian Arctic. My presentation consists of 4 parts. In the first part, I will give a brief overview of the law of the sea in accordance with the UNCLOS rules governing shipping. The second part addresses the new legal regulation of shipping in the Northern Sea route in accordance with the Russian Merchant Shipping Code, which will come into force soon. And in the third part, I want to talk about the Northern Sea route and the reasons why this topic is becoming more and more interesting now. I will also talk briefly about economic basis for ongoing change in approaches. In the final part of my presentation, I will try to interpret which approach can be used to understand what is happening. So how to connect the new Russian laws with international law and first of all UNCLOS. And I will also give legal qualification to Russian laws from point of view of international law. So first part is about UNCLOS maritime standards. I believe you all are familiar with these standards. But these standards related to status of sea territories in accordance with UNCLOS. Here you can see that it's very common terms. For example, internal waters, territorial waters, exclusive economic zone, continental shelf and high seas. These territories have a different status from point of view of UNCLOS. And for example, internal waters, this is here in this picture, you can see that very easy to understand, whereas territorial waters, this is 20 nautical miles from the coast. Contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone and high sea. And every coastal state has different rights in these areas because, for example, in territorial waters, they have much more competence and authority. In high seas, they have no authorities. And the middle position is position of exclusive economic zones, and mostly about it we will speak because the Northern Sea route mostly based on exclusive economic zone. Here also another picture, but for example, in internal waters, it's the waters of landward side of the baseline of the territorial sea from part of the internal waters of the state. A coastal state is free to enact legislation, to regulate, to prohibit passing by foreign ships etc. And in economic zones, the specific of economic zones, it's a big area, 20 nautical miles. It's about 330 kilometers from the baseline, and the coastal states has sole exploration rights over all natural resources. And now we are in position that Russia tries to regulate this area a bit differently. Now we will soon look at that. Russian Merchant Shipping Code is a federal law which regulates very many aspects of navigation, and so here you can see what kind of relationship regulated by this code. This is very serious act, and I have to say that this is document number 1 for all shipping companies and shipping business in Russia. Of course, maybe we can say that it's not, maybe not all people like it, but they have to take it into account. And Merchant Shipping Code regulates fishery and transportation of everything, and marine resource research, and very many other relationships. The rules established by Merchant Shipping Code also apply to sea vessel during the sailing both by sea routes and inland waterways, unless other right provided by international authority of the Russian Federation or by federal law. And this is not new, but this year we have a new 2 new amendments to this regulation, and this is very interesting from point of view of regulation of the Northern Sea route. They are here. First of all, the new regulation that only the vessels sailing under the flag of Russian Federation can carry out now pilotage, sanitary and other activities in the waters of the Northern Sea route. And sea transportation of oil and gas, including LNG and gas condensate, also now it's possible also only for ships under the flag of Russian Federation in this area. Storage of oil and petroleum products, natural gas, also including LNG and gas condensate and coal, is also allowed only for vessels under the flag of the Russian Federation. This is effective in this date, 30 December, and another part of amendments effective from early February. And this is very new, and this exists not in vacuum, in a specific context of Russian legislation, and I wanted to say that it's very interesting that you know that Northern Sea route is not very popular now, but it's very popular for Russian legislator. And every year, for example, I checked Garant. The Garant is a Russian law base for law. This is electronic database, electronic resource, and I have seen that it's very many regulations now enacted, and they are stronger and stronger, and every new month we have something new and very interesting. For example, I thought that maybe this is for which project this is actual. For example, who now transport oil and gas condensate in the Northern Sea route? Here you can see 4 projects. This is all projects are very famous, I believe, and also I checked on Vessel Finder. This is internet resource for searching vessels and under which flag they are sailing, and I saw that these 4 projects mostly used foreign vessels in the practice. Here, and of course all these projects used shipping here, because mostly in Russia, gas and oil transport are organized by pipe, so not by vessels. But here, these 4 projects has no access to pipe by different reasons. And first of all, this is Prirazlomne, this is Gazprom Shelf project, which sent tankers to Europe, United States and Europe, LNG. And Sakhalin and first and Sakhalin 2, this is Middle East, on the island peninsula Sakhalin, but they also regulate by this norm, but they, half of this project worked this concession agreement. And Prirazlomne, this is 100% Gazprom ownership, but Yamal SPG, Yamal LNG and Sakhalin, they are all work this concession agreement. And they have very special status of everything. So they don't follow always Russian law, and they have very many special regulation and concession agreement, etc. I don't know, will they change something? Because I'm not an insider now, and but I think it's very possible that they will not fall in this regulation, because they have special circumstance and another internal agreements. But obviously that there are no any other projects on the scale commercial production in Russia, and I am not sure that in the near future it will be many new projects there. But I believe that also very possible that Russia tries to limit using of international foreign ship here in this project, because it's a question of taxes, this is a question of money, and I think that's also very possible that in the nearest future we'll see changing of the policy of these companies. Also, this new rule has several exclusions. For example, 2 last provisions do not apply to legal relations from contract concluded until December 30, as well as international authorities providing for the use of ships under the flag of foreign states. And the Russian government may allow this activity. This means that here we have common wording that if international agreement of Russia provide another rules, so these rules are actual, and this we have to refer these rules and do nothing. Another norm means that Russian government can enact personal edict to let companies do not apply these rules. This is also normal for Russian legislation. We have a lot of such norms, and how it will be adopted in practice now we don't know. But interesting that in this case we have an attempt to bring new terminology to maritime law. This term is the Northern Sea Route. Northern Sea Route is a shipping route. It is officially the water area adjacent to the northern coast of the Russian Federation. And here you can see this is wording of the law. But interesting that the Northern Sea Route limited here only by east and by west, not by north. And this is very interesting because I have read very many doctrine sources in which authors explain why we have no limits in the north in this case. And mostly this is very clear if you look at the map. This is map of this route, and also here you can see that mostly the Northern Sea Route is exclusive economic zone, and but the modern Northern Sea Route in Russia, from Russian side, is very well equipped, and now we have about 30 transshipment bases and ports. For example, in Canada, if you look at map, we have no such infrastructure. 2 or 4 or more months of shipping, then sea is free, and often it's possible to do with ice-breaking service. And here you can see how many ships passed this route. For example, 10 years ago, it was 4 ships. Now it's about 500. This is very big amount, and mostly I believe these ships work with Russian projects. But obviously, this regulation of the Northern Sea route shows that Russia doesn't estimate this route as a possible way to import from China or to China. Russia estimates this way as an internal opportunity to ship for tankers, for LNG tankers, for Russian projects, but not for anything else. And this regulation, I think, mostly follow this goal. Also, it's very important that soon, obviously, it will be free of ice. And in this case, we will see that's going on with the regulation. I believe that next 10 years, we will get very many laws from Russia which regulate this relationship. Of course, the Northern Sea route has very many advantages and disadvantages as well. And here advantages safety and less than half the distance, and so etc. But no restriction on tonnage or size of vessels. This is important also for supertankers, because not all can go through Suez Canal. And disadvantages also sometimes very important, but for example, ice-class vessels, this is requirement for administration of the Northern Sea route. In Russia, it is official body which administrates shipment there. And then you want to go there, you have to provide ice-class vessel. But not all vessels do it, because, for example, last year I know that it was 3 or 4 vessels which didn't do it, and they passed the Northern Sea routes freely and normally without any problems. So, as breaker support, also this is another problem, because also the administration of the Northern Sea route thinks this is must, and you have to pay the administration of the Northern Sea routes for ice-breaking support and service. And in this regulation, only ships with Russian flag can provide these services. Of course, this is a bit expensive also. So anyway, we try to add new problems to people who want to ship here by enacting new law. Here, also about this regulation provide norms that the Northern Sea route is territory of economic zone, but really this is not totally so, because Arctic ice drifts, and often it's not predictable where can be this way lie. And this norm about limitation of the Northern Sea route by north was used in the USSR agreement of the maritime delimitation line. And this method of limitation it's very clear for delimitation between Russia and USA now. but this also not limit anything from part of North. And for example, leading Russian international lawyer, Professor Valikjanin, wrote very many works about advantages of this method of limitation, because in official documents we have no any problems with limiting our authority from the North. And last part, interpretations. So now I try to interpret these norms. And first version, from my point of view, the amendments are a new text without any sufficient issues, because in this wording you can see if another not provided by international law. But international law didn't provide such norms. International law didn't prohibit shipping of tankers and ships with LNG or oil and gas, and etc. And this regulation is special. This is not so as international law, so this is mixed, and this is result of Russian pactomania. Version 2, also interesting. I noted that okay, international law is obviously UNCLOS, but not all countries are members of UNCLOS. And in this, between these countries, this is map of membership, and you can see that, of course, mostly countries which are interested in shipping and ratify this convention, but not all. But obviously Afghanistan, Bhutan, Burundi, Cambodia, etc. Cannot add something, to this regulation, and they are not actors on this field. But one state is interesting, and this is the United States. This means that one state, the United States, has ice-class vessels. I mean, in this list of countries which didn't ratify the convention, only United States has interest there and has also ice-class vessels. And this means that from this point of view, United States cannot anymore transport oil and gas and LNG, etc. in this way. But as the United States non-ratification of UNCLOS does not give Russia the right to regulate shipping and related activity on the high sea and EEZ. And UNCLOS comprises international customs, and it's going to be very hard to enforce this rule, and I really don't see any legal opportunities. And version 3, that by the amendments is in a comprehensive review, Russia tries to bring a concept of the Northern Sea route beyond the limits of international treaty. This message of the amendment: the Northern Sea route is Russian territory water and shall be regulated as Russian territorial water. And their regulation in comparison with the UNCLOS is special, and because this is historically established national transport communication. And for example, when you look at this regulation from point of view of Russian legislation context, you will see that they have now in Russia administration of the Northern Sea route. We have very many bodies and officials which are responsible for different aspects of this activity on the Northern Sea route. And also you can see that very many briefs from President and our government which also permanently write about this problem. And they write in manner that we cannot tolerate these foreign ships which passed this passage every year. And it's Now there is no any law about it, but I have read prospects of laws for next year. It's going to be enacted new law which prohibit passing for military ships in this area. This also is very in context with all this regulation. Of course, UNCLOS provides special rules for Arctic area, and this norm was included there because of Canada enacted this, and this is special rights of coastal states which want to protect environment and ecology of the area. For example, this is related to Russia and to Canada, for example, but so we can read it here. But this is, I think that this is totally another regulation, and from my point of view, Russian attempts don't fall in these exclusions because it doesn't meet the non-discriminatory criterion, because Russian flag this is discrimination, and you know that's, for example, the question we discussed this question several years ago, that for example then who can decide you need icebreaker or you don't need icebreaker? This must be decided by flag state. And in Russia, people don't happy with it, because how it's possible flag state can't decide it, and we will have a problem here because they don't have icebreaker support and they don't have anything. So this is not possible to ships going here, etc. And but they can't find basis for it in international law, unfortunately. So second reason, because this doesn't fall in exclusion of UNCLOS, because it doesn't pursue environment goal. And of course, Russian flag is not an environment goal. This is a goal to collect money from some kind of activity or limit shipping in this area. And thought is not based on the best available scientific evidence. Of course, I have read an explanation about this amendment and laws, and you know that there are no any scientific evidence at all, and it was done because of very different reasons. And finally, this aspires to more than is a regulation. So, and this topic can be viewed from very many different contexts. It seems to me most interesting how economic experts will estimate it, and of course it will have diplomatic effect, taking into account recent developments from Russia and trends in modern Russian legislation. I think we can wait very many arbitrations and international trials, and which would appear luckily and be resolved, I think, not in Russia favor. So we will soon see. Thank you very much.
Thank you.